Hey everybody, here looking at HP desktop. But this isn't your average HP computer. This is quite the departure from what you would normally expect to see in an HP desktop. This is an HP Envy Phoenix 810 PC series, model number 810-150 SE. Had a 2-year warranty on it originally. I think it's from 2014, I'm 100% certain on that. Originally had Windows 8.1 and Windows 8 on it. This, guys, is what HP considers a gaming class machine. And let me tell you guys, this thing is definitely a tank. Let's start by looking around the back of the machine. The first hint is the power supply. No, it's not your typical regular old Bestech or Delta. It is actually a Delta power supply, but it's quite massive. We'll cover that in a moment. The case, at least from this side, is your typical HP chassis, kind of flimsy. But when you look in the fan grill, no, there's not a fan right there. There's something else there. Do you see it? Yeah. This thing has water cooling, and it's factory water cooling. No, this wasn't installed by the end user. This is factory. This has a Core i7 processor, nVidia GeForce discrete graphics, 24 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabyte hard drive, which is the reason why it's here. The hard drive is failing. But get this, with all this powerful hardware, do you know what the client uses this thing for? Just for web browsing and checking email. That's as far as I know. The original reason why this thing came in was because the client somehow, I know how he did it. He was probably poking around in Action Center in Windows 10 and clicked the tablet mode icon, and it got rid of his desktop icons and put some live tiles on the screen. It converted it into how Windows 8 behaved, more or less. And he was like, how to get my Internet Explorer back? Where'd it go? Where'd these icons get to? Well, tablet mode was turned on, and I explained it to him. So you mistakenly turned on tablet mode, and here's how you turn it off. But the next thing I was like, sir, what do you use this computer for? Like, oh, this is just like browsing the web, checking email, you know, that kind of stuff. Says he got it on sale for a really good deal. He says, I don't know how much that was. I think the guy bought this thing with the intention of having something that wouldn't break on him, something that would last him for years. Well, I mentioned to him, I said, hey, look, I said, yeah, this is probably a $2,000 computer when it was new, but unfortunately, that doesn't mean it's going to last any longer than a basic in HP. And it's not HP's fault here. It's actually the hard drive, and of course, it's a Seagate. It wasn't too much of a hard guess, I'd imagine. It is a Seagate ST2000D M001. I had two ST2000D M003s. Two ST1000D M003s, 1 terabyte drives. And I think a ST2000D M001. Every single disk failed. 2 of them failed within the warranty period, and the other failed outside of warranty. The STX00D MXXX drives are garbage. They're garbage. I've seen so many of them fail, it ain't funny. So the drive itself hasn't failed yet, but it's in Crystal Disk Info. It's showing a status of caution, meaning in this case bad sectors. That's usually how they go. Um, so it's in for a hard drive replacement. And I told the guy, I said, with all this power that you have here, it's like, man, do you realize how much power this thing has? I said it has 24 gigs of RAM. And I think to an average Joe, they may not see how significant that is. I mean, for crying out loud, the CAD level computers at the college I work at have only 16 gigs of RAM. The Q Computer Mid-Tower Lux, with the upgrade I done to it back in December, just 16 gigs of RAM. This thing has 24 gigs of RAM. I mean, this thing is massive. I told the guy, I said, look, I said, you got such a powerful computer here. I said, I know something was really odd about it booting into Windows 10 taking forever to load. And I checked with Diagnostics and the hard drive is failing. And I said, I can replace your hard drive with a different one, or if you want speed, I can put a solid state drive in here, and that's what's going to happen. He's like, yeah, I want the speed. So we're gonna put a solid state drive in here. It won't be in this video, but it'll be later on. So let's go and continue on. Let's let you have a look at the side over here. But yeah, the guy said he got a good deal on it, which I don't know. I don't know how much he paid for it. I hope it wasn't too much, but then again, I wouldn't expect something like this to go for real cheap either. Gotta make sure this thing is sitting on all of its feet. Yeah, Core i7 processor, GeForce graphics. And I noticed he hasn't even taken the plastic off the thing yet. I'm going to probably voluntarily do that for him. I'll ask him first, though. But yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, to an average Joe, hearing 24 gigs of RAM, Core i7, nVidia GeForce graphics, water cooling system, may not sound so significant, but literally, it is like buying a 1-ton dually pickup truck just to take your kids to school. It's kind of like my dad's 2005 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. He bought it back in 2008 from a guy who bought it new, who used it to run clothes back and forth for a dry cleaning business. Never towed a trailer with it. Never gave it any serious truck work, more or less. This is the equivalent of that. This is a machine that was built to run games, CAD, stuff like that, and it's getting used for just the basics. So this is a look inside the machine. We have a all-in-one liquid cooling system. Not sure exactly who made it. I'm going to guess maybe Corsair or one of those companies made it for HP. It's got the HP logo on the CPU block, which also has the water pump in it as well. Onto the subject of more expensive, does that mean more reliable? As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean more reliable. Typically, an air cooler is more reliable than a water cooling system. A water cooling system has more failure points. Okay, but I want to take a moment to elaborate further on the multiple failure points aspect. With water cooling systems, you have multiple failure points. First of all, with a typical heatsink fan air cooling setup, you have one fan that's powered by your motherboard typically. Yeah, that fan can fail and cause your system to overheat. But with water cooling systems, you have not only the cooling fan on your radiator, but also the heart of the water cooling system is your water pump. Those are prone to failure, but also it gets even better. With water cooling systems, you can run the risk of springing a leak, and that coolant, in many cases, will conduct. And if it leaks out onto your hardware components, it can trash the motherboard or whatever else that coolant makes contact with. Also, if you lose enough coolant, you could risk overheating the system, and if that coolant contains ethylene glycol, like what's in your automotive antifreeze, it is poisonous to humans and animals. So if it leaks out of your system and your dog or cat drinks it, it can poison them. Or if your little kid happens to sip it up, it can poison them. There's just so many things that can go on here. And let's say, for example, with closed-loop water cooling systems like what's in this HP computer, I'd imagine this thing might have been manufactured by Corsair or whoever makes them for Corsair. one of those manufacturers made it. Just from looking at it, I can see that the radiator is an aluminum radiator, and I'm pretty sure that on top of that CPU is a copper water block. So you're mixing metals, which requires to have a special coolant in the system with anti-corrosive agents in it. In many cases, that can be antifreeze, like ethylene glycol. Such as it's in your car. Your car has different kinds of metals. But let's say, what if they don't? What if they put just distilled water in there? With just distilled water, you can run the risk of having algae growing in your system. The metals will corrode themselves. The aluminum and the copper will react with each other and get corrosive. Of course, causing other types of failures. There's so many different failures that can result, especially from these closed-loop systems. I don't really care much for closed-loop systems. When it comes to water cooling, honestly, I prefer to have a custom system. And with water cooling, you have two big advantages aside from the risk. Number one, you can have a very quiet running system, and that's what HP I think is doing here. Is they're trying to make this machine very quiet, and as you will see or hear, it runs very quiet. But the second advantage of liquid cooling is better overall performance of the cooling system. Your CPU will generally run a lot cooler. The heat gets pulled out of your system a whole lot better with a liquid cooling system, which means better overclockability. But just wait till you see the BIOS or the UEFI of this machine, and you'll be wondering how easily you could overclock this machine, or how difficult it would be. And you would question, would you rather just have a good large heat pipe air solution versus this thing? Because I'll be honest, closed loop water cooling systems are prone to failure. They are highly prone to failure. They're nice, they're convenient, they're easy to install, even as far as to where HP can put one in their systems apparently. But yeah, I have mixed opinions on seeing these kinds of solutions installed in computers like this. Water cooling is generally the reason why you would want to do water cooling is for overclocking, or for the benefit of better cooling of your CPU, or you want to do it for a quieter system. And this thing is very quiet. It barely makes a sound. But it's got probably a Pegatron motherboard. It's HP OEM board. It has a Delta 600 watt power supply. It's branded HP, but the model is DPS-600WB. A dead giveaway that it's a Delta power supply. And it's built like a tank. It even has sleeving on the cables. This thing can take up to 3 hard drives. Pretty impressive for a mini tower. And are these tool free? No, they're not exactly tool free, but still pretty impressive. This thing has the power supply offers a 6-pin video card connector, a 6+2 pin video card connector. So this thing, you could definitely expand it with a better video card if you wanted to. That video card, they're not sure which one that is, but it's probably a more basic in card that doesn't require an auxiliary power source. But this is definitely a massive machine. So you may have seen I've already disconnected the hard drive. The reason why I have disconnected power from the hard drive is because I want to start this thing up and show you the BIOS and such, but I don't want to put any more running hours on the drive until I go to back it up. Because when these hard drives start to fail like this, the more hours you put on them, the more at risk you are of losing your data. So I'll just go ahead and start it. And they definitely went with a theme of red here. Look at this. Pretty nice, eh? And you see the red LED fan on the radiator. They also did active VRM cooling. And I tell you, this thing is built like a tank. It is built to go. Okay guys, I've went ahead and shut down the plexi. So that way you can better hear how quiet this machine runs. Now, as I mentioned, I've disconnected the power to the hard drive, so it doesn't include the noise of the hard drive, but this is how it will sound though with a solid state drive. And speaking of the SSD, I don't see anywhere in the system where I can mount one, so I'm going to have to buy a 3.5 inch to 2.5 inch disc adapter. That way I can slide it right into the existing hard drive bay. Now another option could be, if the motherboard would support it, install a M.2 riser. Now speaking of which, I'm looking at the motherboard and I see what may be a Wi-Fi card installed back there. I don't think this thing offers M.2. I'll have to look up the specs and just see for sure, because I don't see an M.2 slot on this thing anywhere. It may be too old for that, but that's one of the nice things about water cooling, is how quiet you can make a system be with it. Yeah, it's crazy. Mid-tower Lux, it's it's pretty loud for being a water cooling system, having a water cooling system. I've been thinking about it, rigging up the fans to where they can be controlled by the motherboard, to where they can quieten down and run sort of like this. The motherboard can also vary the speed of the water pump in that system too. There's a few things I could do actually. But yeah, this thing, it's built like a tank. Definitely can take upgrades. There's just one thing left to do, aside from fixing it, replacing the hard drive with a solid state drive. Well, there's a look at the power supply specs, by the way, if you're interested. Back when multiple 12-volt rails were the big thing, they were there for a while. Power supply manufacturers started including rail after rail after rail after rail after rail, and then they started going back to having a single powerful 12-volt rail. And usually the 12-volt rail feeds the entire computer. Your 5 volts and 3.3 volts get DC to DC conversion. But the last thing that we're going to do here, aside from doing the repairs in the later video, will be to check out the BIOS and see if a system like this from HP would offer overclocking in RAID and stuff like that. But first we gotta fight with Secure Boot, because yeah, that's just how Windows 8 systems roll, and probably Windows 10 systems as well. Now if it would detect the keyboard, that would be mighty nice. And what's nice, again, one thing I forgot to mention about nice thing about water cooling is how all the heat from this processor is being poured out the back of the system, rather than being dispersed around inside the case. I think it's not seeing the keyboard. Remove these two Logitech wireless receivers out of the back and see if that makes a difference. Okay, well, so we got startup menu. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Not this crap. Oh, come on a system like this? Well, system information. There you go. It has an i7-4820K 3.7 gigahertz processor, 24 gigs of RAM. Channel A, Channel B are 4 gigs, Channel C and Channel D are 8 gigs. Storage options. Let's see. Okay, so it does offer RAID. Well, that's nice to know. Oh, looky here. You can't overclock with this thing. Jeez, this is like and it's set to enable too. That's interesting. 1-core ratio limit 39, 2-core ratio limit 3. And this is the different cores. This is like rather basic. What is it? Just let you change the multiplier? Not real sure. This is kind of disappointing. Yeah, HP, you blew it with your BIOS. This is pretty disappointing. I mean, come on. This is the same SEP utility that the TV box machine I have in the bedroom has. If you didn't know, that machine has one of those little bitty mini ITX HP boards from their little budget-in computers. Okay, for those who don't believe me, here is the TV box system I was talking about. Just like the TV box Slim, it has a motherboard that was pulled from a budget model HP computer. One of those real cheap in pavilion systems with the soldered on E-Series APU. It's a little bitty mini ITX motherboard. It's, like I say, it's just not really big at all. So we're going to go and restart this machine. I got a USB keyboard hooked up. And I'm going to enter the setup utility. And show you just how freaking similar it looks. It's almost identical. There you go. Almost exactly the same thing. Yeah, this has got to be like the most horrible BIOS on the face of this earth. I mean, it's awful. It's especially on a computer. Now, a computer like this, or the least I'm talking about the machine this motherboard came from, was a very, very low budget board. I mean, budget system. But we're talking about a computer that is aimed at gamers and enthusiasts. Why, HP? Why would you put this crap of BIOS on such a high-end computer? It's a slap in the face. That's exactly what it is. It's a slap in the face. Like, seriously, HP? Come on. Yeah, this is real disappointing. Nice system, nice hardware, lots of potential there. But crappy BIOS. Are you kidding me? Oh man. This guys, this is why if you really want to be, if you really want to have a high-end system, you just best to go off with a custom build. I mean, this BIOS is really disappointing. What's this going? Exit. So yeah, while the system is definitely a departure from HP's, what you would expect from their desktops, this here, the BIOS, is practically the same with a couple of added goodies. So, that being said, I'll do a follow-up video once I obtain a solid-state drive for this thing and the SSD adapter. Well, first I gotta get with the client and just confirm, the price and everything, which I think he's gonna be fine with. He wants his computer back, so yeah. What a nice system, but crappy BIOS. So anyways, Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's CubeComp MTDX. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.